the Best You podcast. The sole purpose of this podcast is to teach, inspire, and motivate everyone to be the best versions of themselves. What's up, everyone? It's your man LG Larry Dawson, and we're back for another episode of the Be the Best You podcast. Thanks again for tuning in or listening. Please make sure you guys take the time to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, tell us what you think. Today, man, is the first time since we started this podcast that I have a repeat guest.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
You're the first person to come back for a second.
You must like me, I guess.
Well, you know what's crazy is like with all the different people that come on, all the different interviews, everything we've done, yours is still one of the most popular ones. So people still like, man, yours and Doctor Mehaffey's was so good. I really like Riley's interview with you. Y'all did a great job. So it was crazy because I've been thinking that I wanted to do an episode talking about modern day topics that are going on in the United States right now. So usually when I have someone on, I kind of cater it to like, you know, a specific topic or their field or something. But today I just wanted to really pick someone's brain on modern topics. And I was like, who better than Riley?
I appreciate you for that, man. But at the same time, it's also you have a lot of, knowledge up there. You have kids. You are a father. You're a business owner. You're an entrepreneur. You also get to see a lot of this stuff too. And you've seen some of the really bad stuff that is starting to really go forward currently, kind of leading to some really worse stuff going on. So, I mean, there's a lot of questions I want to ask you too today.
So, all right, so the first thing is, before we start, just give everybody a recap of who you are and what you do.
Cool. Hey guys, I'm Doctor Riley Mehaffey with Upper Cervical Carolinas, taking care of the Fort Mill, TUK, as well as the Lower Charlotte region here in South Carolina, North Carolina. I'm more of what I call a brain doctor, a neurologic doctor. There's a lot of chiropractors that take care of neck pain, low back pain, shoulder pain. That's great. That's awesome. I don't get as much, reward and as excitement about that. I get more excitement about taking care of people who've been to the neurologist for 10 years, dealing with headaches, migraines, seizures, epilepsy, really seriously bad neurologic issues that we can actually help with upper cervical care. We can scan the body. We can look at everything. We can actually sit down, hone in, correct it very gently, specifically, and watch this brain and body start healing and getting better. One of my favorite stories is about an 11-year-old non-verbal autistic kid. And 3 months into chiropractic care, he spoke. And it was one of the coolest things ever. And I will never lie to you, that's going to hold and stay with me for my whole life because, in my opinion, that is what chiropractic should be. It should be about restoring the body, getting the body working better, not just kind of aches and pains. So that's more of what I do.
Well, I think most, and don't take this the wrong way, I think most doctors care in the Western world, and for a while, I don't think chiropractic care was included in that, but now I think it is. It's all about dollars and cents. And so, like, when you meet someone like you that actually cares about people and individuals and them actually getting better, it's rare, it's sad, because when you go to a chiropractor, a primary care doctor, a specialist doctor, any type of doctor or hospital or medical place, you would think you're going there to get the best possible care and the people actually care about you, but they don't. They just look at you as a patient number and a means to an end. So, good for you and other people like you that are out there that are exceptions to the rule and actually still care about people and helping people get better.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely, man, for real.
Thank you.
Let's dive into these questions. Because I got some good ones for you, man.
Hit me up.
So let's see about this modern day stuff, man.
What do you got?
What's your opinion of Robert Kennedy Jr.? Now, before you answer this, me and you had texted about this yesterday, and I know you mentioned there's one thing that you are particularly happy with. So what I like,
we can all find fault in everything.
Yeah, so I'd like for you to take that out of the equation. We can touch on that during that. But just overall, what's your opinion of him and what you've seen so far, his beliefs, his thoughts on stuff, and just him as a candidate and as a person?
Yeah, so actually one really amazing thing was I got to actually listen to him at my chiropractic school in 2015.
Okay.
So I got to hear this guy speak on a stage, not really politically. This was more health related. Okay. This was talking about the nervous system. This was talking about brain regeneration. This was talking about why is our healthcare system so crap? Okay. I mean, we ingest crap all day. That turns into your body basically running like crap. Then it leads to diabetes, migraines, high blood pressure, things like these, where we're constantly trying to throw drugs and drugs and drugs at it to really essentially mask it. And the other thing he really is trying to talk about is going back to more of a plant-based diet. It's almost kind of silly. Like one of his like kind of campaigns is basically having everyone to have a garden in their yard. What a weird concept that if you look back in the day, I don't know about you, my grandma had one, my grandpa had one, I'm pretty sure your grandparents had them, I'm pretty sure everyone's grandparents had them, but there was also less sickness then. There was a lot less asthma, allergies, things like that. We have a very poor food system and he's trying to fight that. I love that. He's trying to fight the big overuse of pharmaceuticals. Opioids, we can talk about that ad nauseum. I've had people affected by it, I've had people die by it. It is scary, dude. And it's a super addictive drug. It's like as addictive as heroin.
It's the #1 epidemic in America.
It is. It's disturbing. And so he is fighting some of the, really, in my opinion, I think a lot of healthcare opinions, the big important battle. And that is starting with what are we putting in our bodies? What are we else putting in our brain? He is fighting more of the crap media, not so we're not pushing out all this junk for our brains, you know. Are we impressionable? Absolutely we're impressionable. Mm-hmm. Now during, you know, some of the political talks, there's a lot of things people were complaining about. And one of the big topics is usually gun control, right? Talking about guns, talking about, unfortunately, a lot of these school shootings, which is disgusting, disturbing, and sad. But the big thing we don't talk about is the brain. Brain health, mentality. I mean, there are some of these kids that are dealing with severe depression and severe anxiety and severe mental health issues, but we're just throwing drugs at them. And then we're blaming some of the other things. There was a kid, so I went to Greensburg-Salem High School. Whenever I was a freshman at IUP, there was a kid that ran around with 2 knives and slashed about 42 kids at Franklin Regional School. That was not a gun. But he hurt 42 kids, killed 3, killed the security guard there. I'm gonna get a little choked up here, I apologize. Because it hits home a little bit. No one talked about mental health. And he is honing in so big on that. I think that is, look to the cause.
Yeah.
Look to the cause. What is causing these kids to maybe lash out?
The guns in America have been here.
Forever.
The issue is the mental health crisis
Yeah.
that we're going through. And I bring this up a lot. You know, I don't know how many people pay attention to it or, you know, if it falls on deaf ears. But, you know, it doesn't matter if it's the Boston bombers creating a book bag bomb. Doesn't matter if it's the gentleman last year at Christmas time that drove his truck through the parade and killed a bunch of people. It doesn't matter if it's the guy that killed the 4 students at the Iowa college, you know, several months back and stabbed and killed all 4 of them to death. So if you have bad intentions, you're going to follow through on those bad intentions with a gun or without a gun. But we need to get to the bigger issue is mental health.
Yeah.
And you're right, Robert Kennedy, from what I've studied about him, you know, bringing awareness to what we eat, the pharmaceutical companies, the issues with vaccines not properly being tested, the mental health crisis, the pollution of, you know, lakes in America and stuff like that, and the fight he's done for those, our water system and the water that we put in, the fluoride and things that we take in. So he's a very deep individual, and I appreciate that. I watched his battle on Capitol Hill, where he was going back and forth, and he stood his ground very well. And I really respected the way he conducted himself on there.
And I think a big thing is, you know, having his uncle, you know, he unfortunately died. I think what was a little disturbing was when he asked for his own security, he was denied that. Now, in my opinion, I could be wrong. I feel like that's like almost a fear tactic. They're scared of him.
Do you know that he is the first president or vice president candidate to run for office since 1964 to be denied Secret Service security?
I didn't know it was that far back.
Since his uncle got killed. He's the first one since 1964 to be a presidential or vice presidential candidate to be denied Secret Service security.
So here's the thing you can do with that. You can either have really 2 thoughts with that. One, just follow that and think, oh, this just may, you know, this is just a fluke, or this guy's bad. Or 2, go, we should probably think why. Why is this guy denied this when his uncle literally had his brains blasted out on TV in front of his own wife?
They did the same thing to his father as well.
Come on. I mean, you have to critically think, and I think that's one topic you and I can talk years about, is critical thinking. I do think we have a pandemic right now of uncritical thinking. Not thinking and going and regurgitating, just quickly going and quickly doing and bringing it. we got to think more. And I
Because
think
people
that's
believe what
becoming a
they hear.
problem. Yeah, same with media. And he's calling out a little bit of that. Is the news always true? No, it's not. Is your newspaper always true? No, it's not. They can get some things wrong. I will teach you one thing. What is the main thing they teach you in college if you're going into that profession? To make a catchy title so it grabs your attention and it grabs your emotion. You make more decisions off of emotion than you do off of critical thought. So if there is a gentleman that's really trying to take out the emotional part of it, because if every time you listen to him, he really doesn't talk anything about emotion.
No.
He talks simple facts, lays it down, and just sticks to what he knows.
I think that's why people don't like to debate against him, because it's hard to debate facts. You can debate opinions, you can debate policies, you can debate, agendas, you can debate a lot of stuff. It's really hard to debate facts.
And if you're the person who's a little more maybe emotional responsive, you might get really ticked off, perturbed, and you might then look really bad on TV instead of standing your ground, and just sitting on your truth. I think that's another thing we're losing in this world, is we are in more of the social media world with this thing always around us. I don't really believe a lot of people have the knowledge of understanding what they believe. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean it simply they just don't have as much knowledge to it. So I always tell people I'm an open-minded skeptic. Doesn't mean I'm not going to make you feel like I don't believe you. But if you can provide me enough facts on top of my facts, then I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Then I'm wrong. It's plain and simple. And I do not want to continue spewing out something that's wrong.
It's why I have, my opinions on stuff, my feelings on stuff, and then there's facts. But as a human being, I want to be a better person and a better man.
Yeah.
And one of the things that allows me to do that and to grow is when I take in knowledge and I process it, if I understand that my thought process was wrong or I wasn't seeing the whole picture, I can change and adapt the way I feel and think and go about things based off of the new information that I received. A lot of us, even when we get that new information, we just dig our heels in deeper and we want to be stubborn because we don't want to be wrong. But would you rather look stupid by continuing to be wrong, or would you rather take in the information and be like, now that I've processed all this information, I see that I was misguided and that this is actually the way. Very few people are going to do that though.
Yeah, it's almost like, for me, it's an enlightening thing. So it's exciting when I'm like, wow. Like you come to that point, you're like, wow, that's awesome. But I have learned, you and I are both people that love to ingest information, regurgitate on it, sit on it, sponge it up, and then talk about it. Like plain and simple, easy one with RFK Jr. Plain and simple. Go on the social medias. Go in the comment sections when they're talking about it. And I read one and someone was like, he hates guns, he's super against guns, blah, blah, blah. And I went, let me go research this. Instead of commenting, instead of liking, instead of having a reaction, I was like, I don't know if I fully believe that, because I've read some and heard some things before, so let me go into this. And then while going into it, he's not talking necessarily about gun control. He's talking about what is causing these people to maybe potentially kill someone.
Yeah.
I think that's the more important thing than really, let's get rid of guns or let's have restrictions on guns. I'm sorry, but like you said before, people are going to kill people whenever they feel like it. If they're at that point, or if they're that mentally, I don't want to say messed up because that's not the right word to use, but mentally impaired, because I do believe there is a massive correlation between the upper neck and the brain.
I'm going to show you, man, so I'm going to show you a level to me that I don't usually show a lot of people. But this is something that people don't understand. This is a mistake that a lot of people make in the world that we live in. This man's uncle and father was shot and killed by someone having a gun.
Correct.
He could easily be completely 100% against guns and say get rid of guns. But he's not, because he understands that gun didn't kill anybody. It was the person with bad intentions.
Correct.
That person could have thrown a grenade up on the stage. That person could have shot him with a crossbow. That person could have had a bomb. They just happened to use a gun. But he still is able to separate the situation for what it is. I'm about to say something about myself that I don't think but maybe 5 or 6 people in this world know. I was molested from the age of 6 to 7 by a trans. Now people know that I was molested, but they don't know that it was a trans person that did it. They only know, my story and me talking about my story and me saying that I was molested, but they did not know that it was a trans that did it, right? So here's where, you have to separate fact versus fiction. As someone that was violated by the trans community, not the community, a person from the trans community, I could easily sit here and have horrible and terrible things to say about them and feel about them based on that experience. But I understand that was a singular individual that did that to me. I know that person that, for a while was a man and then was a woman, and eventually one day went back to being a man. He just recently passed away. But he lived a trans life for, probably 25 years. It was just that individual that did it to me. So I can't let that affect my overall thought process of them. Wow. Even though other people try to say, oh, they're evil, this. No, individuals are evil. There is evil straight people, there's evil religious people, there's evil trans people, but there's also good in every single community too. And you have to be able to understand the good and the bad. And good people are going to get their hands on weapons, and bad people are going to get their hands on weapons, and that's been since the beginning of time. Cain killed Abel, right? He didn't have a gun, did he?
Nope.
No.
He had a rock.
Yeah, so, you have to understand that in every walk of life, there's good and there's bad, and you have to take that situation for what it is and not apply it to all.
Thank you for sharing that, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But again, that points out, I think the big thing with you is you don't look at the, per se, group, you look at the individual. Mm-hmm. You brought up a great point. Cain absolutely killed Abel. Eve took the apple, went against God's orders. And so I've learned too that if we hate on a group of people, or we just make all these assumptions, all these stereotypes, what does that really do to us as a community in total? It ruins it. It causes division. I mean, united we stand, divided we fall. Turn the media off, turn the news off, and you will probably start liking more people. I'm being serious about that one.
No, I mean, it's serious. It's got to the point over the last couple of years that if you're a Democrat, you can't have Republican friends. If you're Republican friends, you can't have Democratic friends. Yeah. Families have been broken apart over the shot versus the not shot, the COVID stuff and everything. And it's just a shame because it's not necessarily the families or the friends or the community members that actually dislike each other or hate each other because of anything they've done to each other. It's the media pushing them to fight and hate each other, and them being impressionable, like you said, and following through with it. And because the media told you need to do this, this, or this, you now having hard feelings, and it's just crazy, man. It's crazy to me that people can't see through a lot of this stuff and see the bigger picture and understand that we're being manipulated, and there's a big mass manipulation going on with several different things. And it's just sad, man. It's sad because we're all gifted with this beautiful life. We have these bodies and we have these minds, and we have this beautiful life to live, and we can be happy, and we can grow, we can be intelligent, we can be all these things, man. And we choose not to be them. No, people don't use their mind. It's crazy. The mind is the most beautiful thing in the world, the strongest thing in the world, and people don't use it. And it's so sad. People just walk through, they don't know what they want to do in life, who they want to be like, and what makes them happy, what makes them tick. They follow along with what they're told to do on social media and the news and reality television, and what they think other people, if they do this, they'll like them, or if they do this, they'll fit in, or if they get this possession, people will think this and that, instead of just clearing all that out and saying, who am I? What do I like? What makes me tick? What makes me happy? What can I do to be a better person? What is the information that's really important? Let me process that so I can understand how to go through my life and be the best version of me. Yeah. It's just sad that people don't use their brains like that, man.
I think we're almost trained to not use it, and I don't know if we're gonna switch totally different topics. Yeah. But even in kind of just school systems. Mm-hmm. So I'm a nerd. I like researching stuff. I like looking at other countries' school systems. Why are some of these different? So let's just take an easy one. Japan. It's like a whole opposite side of the world, right? These kids aren't really just going into a classroom and then just learning the material and taking a test and then passing the thing. No, they're sitting down, they're talking, they're regurgitating things, they're going outside also and exercising, they're going outside and eating healthy foods at the cafeteria. So in other countries, they're actually putting better things in their body, such as healthy foods instead of crap load of sugar, crap load of carbohydrates, really bad things. Carbohydrates breaks down into sugars. You know that. A lot of people might not, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But that is a huge thing. So if you're eating all this bread, all this pasta, all this stuff at lunch, dude, you sleeping at like 2 o'clock. I remember even in high school, I might make this is really bad to admit. Freshman year, I probably slept 3/4 of the school day because I would play soccer and I would stay up late at night and play freaking video games. So I'd go to bed at like 2 in the morning, I'd wake up at 6 in the morning, and I'm actually really killing my brain development because that is one of the most important times. Is basically that adolescent time period of middle school to high school. And if you're sitting on the phone or the social media or watching the news and getting really basically told, just follow this, do that, you never get the understanding that, hey, guess what? You don't have to do that. You can go be you. You can go be Larry. You can go do the things that make you happy. You can go do the things that make you fulfilled. I don't know about you, but I tell people this all the time about what I do and why I do. I was brain damaged at 18 from multiple concussions. I was a soccer goalie, and I got the crap kicked out of me. Not necessarily saying that happens all the time, but it can. Women's actually soccer is the highest likelihood of concussions. You would never know that. Why I bring that up is because if your brain starts getting bashed and bashed and bashed and bashed, it can cause some spots. It can cause certain things not to work. It can cause the Broca's area, the brain part of the area that helps you, I don't know, regulate emotion. So if this isn't working right, you might wake up one day and want to kill your parents. You might want to wake up one day and shoot up school. And instead of helping the kid, we throw crap at it or ignore it or ignore the signs. And I think that's a big one with young kids. If there's any young kids listening, you have a buddy that's come to you expressing, hey, I'm struggling. Hey, man, I'm doing rough. Grab that person, hug them, and freaking talk to them. Listen, I mean, that is one of the biggest things I think with men. It's like the man culture. Oh, just rub some dirt on and you'll be fine. I'm tired of that crap, especially for mental health. You gotta talk it, but you gotta move forward from it. And I think that's the other big thing. If we are stuck by all day, we don't create the proper ability to, I don't know, move forward in life.
Yeah, I mean, the mental health crisis in America is on a level that I don't think it's ever been before, and there's a lot of different factors that play into it. I'm glad that someone like Robert Kennedy Jr. has come along. Whether I don't think he'll become president. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer on the situation.
No, I'm not either, but
he's just running under the Democratic primary against incompetent president. I could be wrong. I don't think that a sitting president has ever lost his primary. So
sure.
So I don't think that he's going to lose his primary. I think he's going to go into the general election as the Democratic representative, as the president. It's a shame though, because I think Robert Kennedy Jr. is a breath of fresh air, even though he's 69 years old. I think he's a
jacked though.
Yeah,
jacked. Let's talk about that. I mean, that dude has like 3% body fat. Yeah. That is an epitome of health. And then, like, hey, you look at our current running president. That's not the epitome of health.
No, he definitely has some dementia or some stuff going on. He definitely needs to.
That's our leader.
He needs to be in a home, being taken care of somewhere with someone helping him out. It's actually a shame.
It's
and
sad.
The people that put him on those stages and put him in those positions, they ought to be ashamed of themselves. It's not okay, and it's not all right, and you can tell that it's not okay and it's not all right.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Robert Kennedy Jr. is a breath of fresh air for this country and for people.
I agree.
We've gotten so far away from it. He brings back
family values,
hugely. Healthy living, understanding, using your brain, being better people, developing the great American people, the great American way. He doesn't try to cause division between different groups of people. He actually tries to bring different groups of people together, which I really respect about him as a man and as a human being. It's a shame that he won't have the chance to be in the main election, to become the president, because I think that he would be a great president, personally.
I also think he, and this is an unfortunate thing, we have this, thing in our brain to go, well, why does he talk like that? So a lot of people automatically think he's stupid because he has a voice problem. So he had a stroke that destroyed his vocal cords, and actually got surgery which helped him speak, because he was actually like having serious pain anytime he spoke. So this gentleman, who's much older than I am, has much more wisdom, has also really lived, breathed, in my opinion, a healthy life. Why the heck would I not want him running as president? There are some things I might not like. I do sit more on the independent Republican side. I do. There are some things in there that, I'm just like, all right, it's not particularly my cup of tea. But you're also really hitting some of the big heavy hitters, and you're now going to be a salmon swimming upstream.
Yeah.
That's who I want to follow. This whole let's follow the status quo stuff. I mean, dude, I'm sorry, but if everyone's going left, and like there's a clear-cut picture of a 3 paths. There's people walking, and there's a cliff. And the majority of the people are going forward to walk directly off the cliff. And the 2 people in the back are chit-chatting going, why is everyone going forward? I don't know. I don't feel like that's a good idea. Something's telling me I shouldn't do that. And they go right and left. They were the only 2 that lived.
I'm thankful that I don't fit in and I fit out. That's one of the things. It's one of the things I'm truly blessed with that, because look at Americans, right? 74% are overweight, 44% are obese, right? 67% of Americans don't have access to put their hands on 1,000 cash in case there was a problem, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, 51% of all Americans that get married in a divorce.
Yeah.
The second marriage, 67% in a divorce. So when you look at these different stats of Americans, like being overweight, getting divorced, not having access to funds, that's not necessarily who I want to be and how I want to fit in. I want to be my own person and my own individual, and I might not be for everybody because I like to work out, I curse here and there, I got tattoos. I'm not going to always dress the way you want me because I'm going to dress more comfortable, and I'm going to live my life the way I live my life, and make my money and do my thing, and that's fine. I don't have to be for everybody. But I promise you this: anyone that's ever been around me, spent a little bit of time around me, or knows me, knows who I am as a human being, knows my character, knows what I'm all about, knows how I feel about my family and my friends and everything, and I'll put my character up against anybody's. But I would never follow the path of where I see most people going, because I don't think most people stop and really use their brain. And if you're listening to this, there's probably some people saying, I do. Do you though?
Yeah.
I would like for them
challenge yourself.
I would like for them to go look in the mirror when no one else is around. Not how they look, not at their hair, not at their skin, not at their face, not at their makeup, not at their clothes. Look yourself in the eyes. Look deep within your soul in the mirror and ask yourself, am I the best version of myself? Am I using my brain? Am I doing everything I can?
If I had a daughter or a son, would I allow them to date me? Would I allow them to date me? Dude, I think that was one biggest question I heard from a friend, and I went, oh wow, like that hit me hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I wouldn't. Time to change. Time to change.
And I think a lot of times where people make this mistake is they get a good paying job, or maybe not even they get a good paying job, maybe their spouse gets a good paying job. So let's say, you're a solo person by yourself, and you've got a job, you're making $200,000 a year, or you're in a marriage and both of you are making $200,000 a year, or you're in a marriage and your partner's making $200,000. I think that there's a certain financial level, and those aren't even the highest financial levels. I just named financial levels that could get you by on a decent level in today's economy. It gets even worse when you get up to $500,000, $1 million plus, how people act then.
Oh yeah.
Because when you have people that are making, several $100,000 or several million a year, their attitudes are a lot different. They think because they have money and possessions, that makes them a good person, or because they raised kids. I raised kids, or I have this house, or who are you to tell me, or we've got money, or look at how my life is. And I just sit back and I think to myself, okay, all right, yep, right.
Are you happy?
Yeah.
Are you happy?
Are you really happy if when your deathbed comes, and someone walked up to you, an angel, and said to you, could you have been better or done more? What will the answer be? So if you came to me and answered me that right now, I was on my deathbed, I said, absolutely, I could have definitely done more and done better because, I spent a chunk of my life not being right, and then I've spent the last decade plus, trying my butt off every day to be a great human being. And I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody, because I'm not, because there's way better human beings out there than me, but I will notice that I very rarely see as many other people try as hard as I do. I try really hard every single day. I just want to be a good friend, a good person, a good father, a good husband, a good business person, a good neighbor, a good leader, and I really take that very serious, and I try really hard every day to do those things. I don't see that from other people on an everyday basis.
Was it easier back then than it is now? And I mean that just part of life. Was it easier to basically be in that realm, or is it easier to be in where you're at currently?
It was easier to be in that realm because when you're in that realm, you're not necessarily looking at your flaws and it's a lot easier to give in to doing wrong than it is to doing right. I'm going to show you a prime example. How many people do you know that drink several glasses of wine a day in the evening time? Let's just say in the evening time. Let's just say in the evening time they decide I'm going to drink 2 or 3 glasses of wine in the evening time, right? In their mindset, in the life they're living, they don't think they're doing anything wrong.
Right.
They actually think that that's okay, and they'll try to give you justifications. Oh, I got to work out to open the bottle, or oh, it's good for your heart to drink wine and stuff. No, I'm being dead serious.
Did you check a new study about it?
Yeah. So, but check this out. This is a fact. This is a 100% undeniable fact. It's not healthy for you.
Yeah, 100%.
It is 100% not healthy for you.
There is no bit of alcohol that's healthy, not one bit.
And not only is it not healthy for you, on top of that, you are an alcoholic. And so when people think ugly thoughts when you use the word alcoholic.
They do.
But there's definitions to everything. Just like I gave an explanation of 74% of Americans are overweight and 44% are obese. So we could say the same thing. These are fake numbers. Those are real numbers. I just said these are fake numbers. Let's just say 80% of Americans drink, 50% alcoholic. I'm just throwing this out. Let's say that's the case. What consists of an alcoholic is the amount of alcohol you consume per week.
Correct.
So if you are an individual that just drinks 2 glasses of wine every day, that's a total of 14 glasses per week, you are, by definition, by the letter of the law, 100% an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So my point of saying all that is there's a lot of people out there that go through life and think that they're okay and stuff. So when you ask me the question, would it be easier back then? Yeah, ignorance is bliss.
Correct.
Because you're going through and you're not quite understanding everything, so you think that everything is everything until you have a spiritual awakening or a shaking to your core like I did, and you start to refocus and want to be a better person, and you start to realize, well, I was doing, obviously these things were bad, no shit.
Yeah.
I need to stop that.
Stop doing
that. But besides those, there's some other things underneath the surface, like little small stuff. And I actually need to do better at all these little small things because to really be a better person. But I don't think that those are things that normal people start to understand. Just like the person that is going through life drinking 2 glasses of wine every evening, thinking to themselves, I'm fine, there's nothing wrong with this. And they'll lie to themselves and they'll try to find an article that says, a little bit of red wine's good for your heart, or there's actually an exercise in opening the bottle up. And that sounds funny, but there's people that do this to justify their 2 glasses of wine every day when actually you are an alcoholic, and which actually that stuff that you're putting in your body is bad for you. And actually you should have the knowledge, if you use your brain, to understand that stuff is bad for you, and you can be a better person and a better individual if you remove that from your life.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the pandemic. I mean, truthfully, when you're told to sit at home, do nothing, but we kept the liquor stores open. That should have probably been a wake-up call to most people. When my mom told me that in Pennsylvania, that's where she lives, she's like, the liquor stores are still kept open because, quote unquote, by the mayor of Pennsylvania, or excuse me, of Pittsburgh, we're keeping them open so we don't have too many people go into remission and have to go into a hospital because they're basically dying from not having their alcohol because they're alcoholics. That's more scary. That's more scary. So we're so reliant on something that kills our body technically and kills our brain. So here's the other thing that I find. The majority of the people that are drinking, going out to the bars a lot of times, I used to do that too, don't get me wrong, okay? Like, don't get me wrong. I partied my butt off before. I've done enough of that. Enough of that. I'm way over that, because what would end up happening is, truthfully, I would be usually depressed the next day. Like, pretty damn depressed.
Well, alcohol's a downer.
Because it's a downer. And so after maybe 6, 7, 8 hours, it finally is kind of coming out of my system. Okay, I kind of feel back to myself. But then I would do that just about every 2 to 3 days. That was really stupid. And if you think about it in a brain development time period, so that's one thing I think is important. Most people don't even understand that brain development, full development, sometimes doesn't even happen until 30. It's starting to actually get farther and farther and farther away from what they found was 26 was kind of the common number for really the past 30 years. Dude, in the past 7 years, it's changed almost every year to get further and higher and higher and higher in your age, because we keep putting so much crap into the body. We keep putting so much input into the brain. So at the end of the day, most people don't know that the brain has 2 things that is important. One, it's called short-term memory, and one's called long-term memory. Why is it that when we go to school, we take Adderall and stay up till 6 a.m. in the morning, study for 6, 7, 8 hours, go take a quick test, and then whenever you need to take the test, maybe in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months from now, you don't remember jack crap. Because your brain needs this thing called an action potential. It needs time. It's called the relative refractory period. You want to look something fun up? Look at that up. The relative refractory period simply states that there's a certain amount of time your brain needs to create what's called a synapse. A synapse is simply how that brain is communicating to certain areas. It's an electrical charge. So if your brain is running at 100% all the time, it can't actually create proper long-term memories. You might be killing it in the short term, but in the long term, and you're like, I should know that. Why don't I know that?
Just never in the moment taking things in.
Correct. And you're also ingesting all this stuff that might really damage the brain. Easy things that damage the brain. Sugar. Plain and simple. You want to look up some fun stuff? Go on YouTube. Type in sugar versus cocaine brain scans.
I already did.
It's crazy. It's crazy, bro.
My wife was showing me how when they addicted the mice to the sugar, and it was showing like how the scans was on their brain, how they would react, and how it was connected on the cocaine, how it would react, and then it gave them the option of which one they would go to if they were addicted to both, and they would run to the sugar every time, and it would light up twice as big as when they went to the cocaine.
So what does that happen to your kids? To your kids. So here's the thing: if that is more addictive than cocaine, which everyone apparently loves to do in Charlotte, you can't go to a bar without hearing it. Someone sniffing in the bathroom. Like, quit it. Why is it that you're basically feeding your kid? Really, I would call it double cocaine.
Yeah.
You're feeding these kids so much, all this red dye, all this other stuff, which you see it and I saw it with your kids. So one really cool thing is we hang out.
Yeah.
So I get to see you outside of, maybe just doing these podcasts or doing a video or here and there. I get to see the true Larry. I get to see the dad Larry. I get to see the entrepreneur Larry. I get to see the guy who's like, kids, we aren't going to eat that because what's going to end up happening. So what you do very well on is explaining what the future could look like. You do a very good job of telling them, guys, this is why I tell you these things. And you talk about some certain things that are very important to talk about. I need you guys to be observant. I need you to have your head on a swivel when you're walking around. I need you to look right. I look the wrong way. I do this with my patients, so I'm always trying to mirror them. Look right, look left, look right, look left before crossing the street. I mean, those are kind of more smaller things, but you're also not letting your kids just ingest a crap load of sugar in a day. But also, your kids are incredibly fun to hang out with. And how old are they again?
They're 7 and 10.
7 and 10. So at 7 and 10, that's kind of a fun time period. Kids are starting to really get to learn their voice and, have some fun, do some goofy stuff. Oh my God, it's so much fun hanging out with your kids, bro. Like, it's so much fun. Because they're what true kids should be. They're not bouncing off the walls crazy. They're not saying inappropriate things. They're not doing really childish things. Well, they're kind of, they're incredibly respectful.
Yeah.
They call me sir, and I still call me sir. No, I'm not that old. And like other stuff like that, I don't really, truthful. That's like about 1 out of 100 parents that I see. And I see a lot of parents, a lot of kids in my office.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We don't give our kids sugar like that because it is really bad for you and it's very addictive. It's for special occasions and stuff like that. And, with the kids, I try to talk to them and explain things to them and show them examples of things so they can kind of understand why the decisions are the way they are. I think part of the issues with a lot of parents and kids these days is parents are super lazy and they let electronics babysit their kids. And
Yeah, I'm afraid of that too.
and they give electronics to their kids to babysit their kids because they're pretty lazy, and then
Well, it's easier.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
and they develop their habits based off of like what they see on TikTok and Instagram and these different stuff. And you know, we're careful about who we allow the kids to hang out with, their
Yeah.
parents, the environments that they're in. We make sure that they stay active. You know, Braden's in jiu-jitsu and Kennedy is in gymnastics. You know, we have rules where, like, you know, kids these days, they don't really want to go outside and play like we did.
Yeah.
You know, my kids will still go outside and play. And I teach them, you know, like respect and discipline. And I teach them about learning and about failing and accepting things for what they are. Because I feel like when we don't tell kids no, or we don't let kids experience failure, they don't understand what it's like. And then
Right.
when they go into the real world and they experience failure, they don't get the girl or guy, they don't get the job, they don't get the promotion, they can't accept it because they haven't been taught what it's like to be told no or to fail. So I don't agree with the participation trophies.
No.
I told, you know, my kids that if someone tries to give you, you know, if you come in fourth place and someone tries to give you a participation trophy, tell them thank you, but no thank you. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and practice, and I'm going to come back and win first place next year, and I'm going to get that first place trophy.
There you go.
Because you need to have goals in life, and you need to have discipline and respect in life. That's why you hear the yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am from them and stuff. And, you know, it's funny to me because you don't even have to be like really hard on the kids to do these things. Like,
No,
you
really,
see
no.
how my interactions is with them and how Jess's interactions with them is, and you know, she does her homework with them and she does stuff with
Yeah.
them. We have movie nights together.
Reading
And
books.
yeah, and so
Every
like
night.
it's weird, like you said kind things about my kids just now, but I hear that from almost everyone that's
Yeah.
around our kids. And I just think it's from our approach, which, you know, 20 years ago, I think that approach would have probably been kind of standard. But in
Yeah.
the day and age that we live in now, that approach isn't standard. The woke movement is the new standard thing. And so, like, you see a lot of wild stuff going on, and you don't see that from us or our kids.
No.
And so I think that, you know, we're looked at like, whoa, they're so much different. But really all we're doing is applying stuff that for, you know, a long time was the foundation of how we would raise solid people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've gotten so far removed from that, and we have went so far left, it's got us in the situation we're in.
I agree, man. I think one thing is they're impressionable.
Mm-hmm.
They also see you guys and what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Truthfully, you're not like on your phone all the time when we hang out. Like we hung out was about a couple Saturdays ago. You know, we had a great day. I had, I think, 30 text messages. I didn't care.
No.
I was like, no, I want to live in the moment. I want to enjoy myself. I want to be on the water. I want to hang out with people that I'm actually really enjoying.
Yeah.
Like, it's fulfilling. And I think that's another thing. I used to, man, this is going to be a little vulnerable for me, and I'm okay with it. So that old age-old saying of the 5 people you surround yourself with, you're the average of them, I said, that's BS. That's BS. No, that is 100% true.
Yeah.
That's 100% true. And I hate admitting that, I really do, but it is the truth. When I came here to Charlotte, I was still kind of in that party mindset. I was still kind of like, let's go out, let's have fun, blah, 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 blah. And I'm hanging out with them, and I had one kid, his name's Connor, and he looks at me, we're like hanging out at this party, and goes, why are we here? What are we doing with our life? And truthfully, I'm hammered at this point, like 1 in the morning. And I look at him and I went, yeah, what are we doing? What are we really doing?
Yeah.
Are these actually our friends? And I said, I got an idea. You might not see me for a while. I said, I'm going to take a break for 3 weeks and let's just see. Do you think I ever got a text message from any single one of those persons ever again? Nope.
No,
They're not your friends.
Yeah, they're not.
They're there to party with you.
Yeah.
And you're really just wasting your life away.
Yeah.
One of my biggest advices to any students going into college. Number 1, inflation is huge. Number 2, student loans are expensive. Number 3, that excess money you have from those student loans that's not paying for your tuition or your, room and board, do not spend it on alcohol. Do not spend it on the stupid Uber Eats, which is convenient, blah, blah, blah. I get that. Try to get a little job, have a little side hustle in school, write flashcards and make people buy them off you. Like, try and do something that will help you not be screwed in the future. Your $5 beer, so let's, like, simple math, this is actually a fun one I did back in the day. Average $5 beer at the bar.
Yeah.
2015, it's now 2023, so I was in school then, so that's why I can use this statistic. That is 8 years. Inflation on top of that with 7%, turns out that $5 beer is now $12.50 and me paying back. That is stupid, it's doubled.
Why do you think that they don't teach financial literacy at schools?
Because in my opinion, why would they want to teach you financial literacy? Why would they want you to be so smart to be able to govern yourself and fall for the tricks? Yeah, literally, that's really what I think it comes down to.
Why would they teach you not to fall into their traps?
Yeah.
Because the whole system is set up to trap you.
Oh yeah.
And so they're not going to teach you how not to get caught up in the trap that they're setting for you. So they teach you the stuff that they want to teach you. That's one of my major issues with school. You know, there's several issues that I have with school, but that's one of the major issues. And I'm not against school. I'm actually for school and educating the mind.
I'm for
but
education.
I'm for it in the right way.
I will teach you a way of not having to go to college. If you don't need the degree, so what I mean is, like, I'm a chiropractor. I absolutely needed to go to college to get that degree so I could be a chiropractor and a doctor and do it legally, right?
Yes.
But if you can do something where you don't need the degree, guess what? There's YouTube.
There's Khan University.
There's Khan University. There's this amazing thing too where you can actually do this. Go to your community college, enroll in that course. I'm not saying everybody do this, but this is an easy way of doing it. Sit in and enroll in one course.
Yeah.
One course. Figure out that syllabus, whatever books they recommend on that, read them. I don't care if you even stay with the class. I don't care. You're going to get more education just from that. You can literally go to every single school's website and essentially pull out every syllabus that has been pulled just by emailing them, like asking, what is the syllabus for Chemistry 101, Biology 101, Microbiology 205? It doesn't matter. There's so much free freaking information on the internet, it is disturbing. It is amazing actually how much free information. I call it YouTube University. Dude, I've learned way more. I don't know how to fix a car door,
I was listening.
but I went on YouTube. I look like a freaking mechanic now.
I was listening to Elon Musk the other day, and you know he went to 1 year of college before he dropped out.
Yeah.
And he named 11 different free ways that you can fully educate yourself online for free. Khan University was one
That's
of them,
an amazing
and,
one.
and one of them was YouTube. But it was he gave a list of 11 different ones, and he said if your ultimate goal is to really educate yourself and become smarter and to grow your brain and your thought process, he said here's 11 different ways that you can do this for free without spending a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
So I just I appreciate that about him. But let's do this, man. I know we were on Robert Kennedy, so
Yeah.
let's go back to. I'm going to ask you the next question. What's your final take? Is it a thumbs up or thumbs down for Robert Kennedy?
Do I have to have a thumbs up or thumbs down? No, I'm just kidding. It's kind of like when we're watching.
Yeah.
What was that movie? No, I'm gonna have to go with up. I'm gonna have to go with up. There is some of the stuff when it does come to a few things I've mentioned. I won't mention out loud what it is that I'm not the biggest fan of, and that is more of a democratic thought process. And hey, that is what I'm realizing. In this era, this time period, well, it's always been like this. It's a two-party system.
Yeah.
You kind of gotta pick and choose your battles. There's no really per se perfect independent person for you.
Yeah.
So if I have to kind of beat around some of it, and as a Christian too, I don't agree with it. I really don't. But if you're also going to help brains, you're also going to save children, you're also going to save babies, you're literally going to help kids, not shoot up schools, I'm kind of in a little bit on that one. So I'm going to have to give a thumbs up. What about you?
Yeah, I'm a big Robert Kennedy fan for, there's just so much wrong right now, man. There's just so much. And I'm not saying that one man is the cure for anything, but what I'm saying is there needs to be someone to lead the charge to start the process. He seems like a decent candidate to lead that charge.
I agree.
So let's just leave it at that.
I'm cool with that.
All right, so the next question is, what's your opinion on recreational marijuana use?
awesome. We're in the Bible Belt, so I think this is a great topic.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
New York was right beside us. I think, if memory serves me correct, New York was the first medical marijuana at the time that then did turn into recreational. There are always two sides to the coin, but I want to explain it more on the health side.
Okay.
These are two things most people don't know. So when I was younger, my mom did have breast cancer. It scared the crap out of me. I thought my mom was going to pass. But I went and thought and went, well, how did this happen? How long was this cancer actually here before she really, it turned into this, oh, we can now see the cancer. We now actually feel all these effects. My mom wasn't feeling well. She was going through a very stressful time period. So when I was in school, I heard about, marijuana usage for cancer. And I said, well, that's pretty interesting to me because I was always told, drugs are bad and okay. South Park, all jokes aside though, but I was like, that's interesting. And then I thought about it a little more and I went, okay, well, technically marijuana is a plant, correct? It's growing from the ground, it's growing from the earth. And if I, as a Christian, in Proverbs, it does say, I have provided all of these plants on this earth for your health and your consumption. Okay, so I'm going to sit on that. And I'm reading about this, and there's a really great documentary called The Sacred Plant. You can find some of the excerpts on YouTube. And there was a lady in it where she was taking suppositories for colon cancer. And she was like, look, I don't really like the THC because it, can really make me a little more loopy. I have a kid, I have to take care of things like that. But her cancer went away. And I went, what is the properties that maybe do this? So let's break down marijuana. Marijuana is really, there's a lot of big portions to it, but the two massive things is THC, tetrahydrochloride. What that really is your more psychoactive part. You're feeling all loopy, goofy, things like that. The more important part is the CBD, the cannabinoids. The cannabinoids work with your endocannabinoid system. There is an endocannabinoid system that goes through all of your internal organs, every single one of them, all in this area. So the amazing thing that happens is when your body ingests CBD, whether it's topical, whether it's oral, whether it's smoking, whether it's suppository. I don't want to do that, but hey, if I had colon cancer, I'd rather do that than get my freaking colon cut out. I don't do that. So CBD is one component that can find a bad cell, mark it, and say, hey body, I need you to bring those macrophages in, come and cough it, kill it, and get rid of it. THC, though, is the only known component in the entire world. It's no man-made thing can make it. It's the only thing that can come in and actually kill it without hurting anything else in the entire body.
So the CBD identifies it,
Identifies.
and the THC attacks it and kills it.
Completely. Without even letting the body go and do it, it does it itself. I said, well, holy shit. That is amazing. That's profound. Why aren't we using this? Why are we using this in cancer? Well, I don't know. Cancer is the world's largest leading cause of money in healthcare. It's amazing. It's like a $7 billion, no, it's like a $60 billion injury. What am I talking about? It is disturbing. So if cancer started going away from natural changes, pharmaceuticals are losing a ton of money, greed. So Nixon literally shut down marijuana. Why he named it marijuana was because at the common time we didn't like, Mexico. We didn't like Mexicans per se. And so he named the common name of Mary, which is the most common name at the time of females in Mexico, and Juan, which is the most common name of males in Mexico. So then we came with marijuana and made it this horrible thing and made it a stage 1 narcotic. So you can go to jail for years and years over you carrying a little baggie of cocaine, which is way worse.
You mean marijuana?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. So you will go to jail if you have possession of marijuana. You will go to jail longer than you would have for possession of cocaine for the same amount of weight. Is that not disturbing? So the one that's actually addictive is kind of okay. But the one that actually has natural healing properties to it, it's bad. Now, recreational is kind of a hot topic because, truthfully, when I was in New York, I was getting a contact high, I felt like, everywhere I walked. I will say that sucked. I didn't like that. It was kind of annoying because it does affect my fiance Jenna. The smell really messes with her, and she can kind of just, it affects her body badly. So that is also a rarity too. So my thing with recreational marijuana is if you are going to do that, and you're in a state that it, has it, please be mindful of other people. Please be respectful of other people. Don't be going out into the concert smoking it up hardcore. Don't be going in the parking lot and like just blazing up in front of like a place. Be a little more respectful of it, because you know it's a really strong smell. Plus the stuff like 20 years ago is not even remotely what it even is nowadays, and it's incredibly strong. It's incredibly powerful. But I do think every state should have medical marijuana. I'm not 100% yet on recreational use, and I know that's interesting, especially as a person who has used it before. I'm a big believer in using CBD as well as THC, the gummies, the Delta 9 stuff. For a lot of people who are having some of these, you know, let's say really bad sleep issues or really bad schizophrenia or really bad Parkinson's or dementia, it makes a massive change in their brain because it actually helps heal and starts attacking some of the bad stuff. So dementia, you might know people with it, and it's really hard to watch. It's hard to even have a conversation with them. You can give them literally a gummy, and you can get the legal stuff, which is the Delta 9 stuff. You can get it here in the area. Give it to them and watch what happens. It has gotten such a bad rap. It's kind of sad, and maybe it's, you know, the icky sticky, you know, the skunk, whatever. But if we are not going to look at the health property of it, but be totally okay with giving opioids, I'm concerned.
Well, I think the reason it gets a bad rap is for two reasons. One, which what you just touched on, is that if it is as effective as it seems to be and as research has showed to this point, it puts our healthcare system and the amount of money they make off of certain things in jeopardy, which also hurts the pharmaceutical companies.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pharmaceutical companies are who bankrolls most of these politicians' campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're talking about them. It's just a trickle-down effect that I don't think that they necessarily want to change. And then the second part is that, you know, the recreational part is a little out of control in some places.
I agree. Yep.
And but I look at that almost like the same
Almost like
thing.
cigarette smokes.
Well, yeah, almost like liquor. Like, you know, liquor is to be consumed. I consume liquor or drink
Rare.
once every 2 or 3 months,
Yeah.
right? So there's a liquor store right around the corner. I'm not like, oh, I need to go get some liquor from the liquor store. But there are people that live like that. Oh, I need to go somewhere. So as an individual, it goes back to, you have to have self-control and understand yourself. If you recreationally want to do something every once in a while is one thing. If you're spending every day of your life constantly doing something, it's something else. So I agree with that as well. But from a medical standpoint,
It makes no sense why you don't have it.
yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. You brought up one big thing. You said politicians and pharmaceuticals. Who is the highest donator to politicians?
Pharmaceuticals.
So let's follow the money. Let's think. Let's ingest this. Let's actually sit down and go, this is weird. So if we just put a hypothetical thing out, let's say all recreational use through the United States. The first time recreational use really got to be totally utilized properly was in Colorado. They made, I think, $300,000 extra in tax money for the schools. I was like, dope, that's awesome. $300,000 for school students instead of $300,000 going to your politician. Where would you rather that money go to? Seriously, like think about that for 1 second. Where would you rather have that money go to? Would you rather have it going back into your community or going to a politician?
The sad part about it is, in the world we live in today, if that $300,000 was given to the politician and he were to be trusted with allocating that money out, he would probably put $250 towards, well, I don't even need to say it, and then probably $50,000 would go to the school, if that.
If that.
Yeah.
It'll be a donation that's tax write-off and makes you seem good, so it's just a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
And, you know, we do see a lot of publicity stunts with certain politicians. We do. We do. Got to take everything with face value, but you also have to do your research. I think it's a big thing.
Oh man, we went really deep on this one. My podcast might get canceled after this.
Oh no, better not. Better not. I like your next question though.
So let's do a complete flip and let's
like
switch everything up. We're gonna still stay on the modern topics. So let me state for you guys watching or listening, the question I'm about to ask him is about the big UFC fights that was this last weekend. What did you think about the Sean O'Malley and Aljamain Sterling fight last weekend?
In what aspect of it? What do you mean? That's a very loaded question.
What did you think about the build up to it?
Okay.
What did you think about the actual fight itself, and now the ramifications of the outcome?
Yeah, okay, I think that's great. So I got lucky. I had a good friend of mine who got me into UFC years ago, and so I got to kind of see Sean O'Malley come up. Now, if you look at Sean O'Malley, automatically you think clown. Automatically. Just for, he has all the crazy haircuts, all the crazy hair colorings and things like that. He's smoking dope all the time, he's got videos on Instagram, him smoking and fighting and all this stuff, and you're like, this dude's fighting for a title fight? This guy's fighting for a title fight.
Yeah.
This guy. The guy who's like literally promoting, rolling papers for weed. Like this is interesting. So the thing was though, I knew, and I said it too, I said this guy will be a champion.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And everyone's like, really, you're gonna pick the clown to be a champion? I said he's 100% gonna be a champion in the next 5 years. I said it's 3 years ago. I knew. Why I knew was because of his mindset. That's one thing no one talks about.
Well, he believes in himself.
He believes hardcore.
Yeah.
And it comes off maybe as cocky to other people, but it actually just comes off as confidence. The cockiness is in my opinion, is your insecurity coming off.
Yeah.
That's why you think that. But this Joker is coming in confident as hell, and he said on Tough, the Ultimate Fighter series that they have, which kind of gets, fighters introduced into the UFC, get a contract, win that contract, start fighting. And he said in that interview, it was like day one, and he was like, I will be the champion. You will hear my name.
Yeah, another thing I like about him is even though he talks very matter of fact, like in his Joe Rogan interviews or his podcasts or stuff that he does himself, if you listen to his build up to his fights, he doesn't engage in a whole lot of crap talking.
No.
He just kind of like Aljamain.
He's kind of a goof.
Like Aljamain Sterling really was talking a lot of smack to him and like just degrading him and clowning him. And Jess pointed something out to me because she watched the fight with me and she watched the pre-fight interview. She actually, after the fight, she was like, he did exactly what he said he was going to do. And I was like, what? She said in the pre-fight interview when the other guy was talking all that stuff to him, she said he looked at him and said, I'm a sniper. I'm going to wait for you to make a mistake. I'm going to catch you on the chin and take you out. And that's literally exactly what he did.
He told you that. He told you were going to make a mistake and I'm going to win. Dude, that's actually been his entire fighting style. That's why he's 15-1-1?
16-1. No, 17-1.
Now. Yeah, sorry, I'm a little off.
17-1.
Dude is smart. He thinks, where's your weakness? How can I exploit your weakness? That's actually how champions usually do produce. Now, it might be a little harder for him to hold that title. I don't know. Time will tell. But, everyone's comparing him possibly to Conor McGregor and all that stuff. I'll be truthful. McGregor, the big reason why he was so, good was dude was stupid confident. Mm-hmm. But he did put the work in. Now, kind of just a drug addict and an alcoholic. And really annoying as all get out. I can't stand the guy now.
Who Sean O'Malley actually reminds me of in the way he fights is Anderson Silva.
Absolutely.
And the reason I say Anderson Silva is if you actually aren't just a casual fan and you're a real fan of fighting and you know people's styles and you understand the way the fight game works, obviously I've studied 5 different forms of martial arts myself and I've actually fought professionally myself. Yeah. So as someone that has done that, I understand the different art forms and what people are trying to do to people. Like sometimes I'll be watching a fight and they'll be booing. You can hear them booing in the crowd, and Jess will be like, "What are they doing?" Because they're like, one person will have the other person on the ground, and I'll be and I'll say, it looks like they're just holding him down, but what he's actually doing is he's trying to slip his arm under so he can pull his arm back and get an arm bar. Yeah. And then they'll do it. And she'll be like, "How did you know that?" And I'll be like, "Well, I studied.
I kind of do these things."
So what I noticed when I watched Sean O'Malley fight is that he's a counter striker.
Yep.
Which speaks to his intelligence level and his toughness. And the reason I say that is because to be a counter striker, 2 things. One, you have to be tough because that means you have to be willing to let the other person engage first. So that means you have
beat you up a little bit.
So that means you have to be willing to take some blows
yes.
because you're going to let the other person engage. And then you have to be intelligent because you're going to have to make split decision judgments based off of the other person's attacking style and movements. So you let the other person engage and come at you, and you process the information in an instant, realize what they're doing, counter and strike. That is actually a very, very deep and skilled and high level skill that a lot of people don't possess. Mm-hmm. So that particular attacking style reminds me a lot of Anderson Silva. Okay, you're going to come with a left, I'm going to catch you with a counter right. All right, you're going to step to the side, I'm going to come with a straight kick straight down the bit. So I appreciate that style.
Well, here I want to ask you this question: with Sterling, do you felt he fought to his strengths, or do you feel like he tried to fight to O'Malley's weaknesses?
I feel like he tried to. So this is how I feel about Aljamain Sterling. I feel like Aljamain Sterling really underestimated Sean O'Malley and how good he is on his feet, and how good of a striker he is. I think that Aljamain Sterling, the height went to his head a little bit.
And he admitted it.
He admitted it afterwards. And I also believe that he thought because he was a white man, that he was a punk, and that he could handle him crazy. And if you listen to some of his interviews, if you listen to the things he said, and you watched his body language, it was coming off pretty clearly that he had disdain for Sean O'Malley. He thought Sean O'Malley was getting favoritism from Dana White because he was white and he was getting white privilege. I feel like he underestimated his ability to strike and counter-strike. I think that Aljamain Sterling is skilled enough that if he would have forced the issue to the ground and wrestled, he probably could have wrestled himself to a victory.
I agree.
But he wanted to show everyone, I'm tougher, I'm stronger, I'm better, I'll go in there and I'll engage with him. And his pure cockiness and arrogance and lack of being able to follow through with his game plan got him knocked out.
Well, look at so round one was a very, very, very interesting one to watch, because all you saw was every time he would try to come in to maybe take him down, what would O'Malley do? He would either step back, he would create space, because that's not his strength. Mm-hmm. And so what he was doing was trying to make him make mistakes, trying to make him come into a takedown and then turn and pop him right in the face. Dude, watching that in slow motion, his knockout, unreal. Watch his eyes, watch Aljamain. Watch Sterling's eyes. That speed is insane to me.
Well, Aljamain Sterling in the move. So watch this. I'm going to show you how when you have a split instinct to make a decision, I'm going to show you the difference between making a decision that'll get you a takedown versus a decision that'll get you knocked out. So as Sean threw the fake leg kick just to kind of get Aljo off balance, Aljo's normal response under normal circumstances would be to shoot the takedown and take you down and wrestle you. But because he wanted so bad to beat him up and to prove his point, instead he threw a very stupid lunging punch, which it overextended his body, put his chin on full display, and put his body in a position where he had no defense. What happened?
You watch him close his eyes, he knows he's getting...
What happened? He paid the ultimate price because the counter-striker counter-struck. Just bad execution on Aljamain Sterling's part. Flawless execution on Sean O'Malley's part. I feel like sometimes poetic justice is served. There's in a fight game, junk can be talked. I've fought before. I fought in this championship fight one time in Charleston, South Carolina. It was the final round of a 64-man tournament and a tough man contest in Charleston, South Carolina. And this guy was in my face. And I was only 18 years old at the time, and we had made it to the finals. And he had this big chain around his neck, and he had a big padlock on it. Big dude, big beard, and he was in my face, man. He was like this close, and he was talking, and spit was coming out of his mouth, and he was yelling at me. He was telling me he was going to kill me and stuff. And he was trying to intimidate me. And really, to be honest with you, it's one of the few times in my life where I was about to engage in a fight, and I was a little intimidated, to be honest with you. There's not very many times in my life. This was a grown man, probably in his mid-30s, and I was 18, and they told me, I didn't realize this when I entered the competition, that same dude had won it the previous 2 years. So
chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, so to me, to him, I was just a little punk in his way from being a 3-time champion.
Right.
didn't turn out the way he thought it was going to, just like the way it didn't turn out the way that Aljamain thought it was going to. So I think sometimes poetic justice is served. You know, he talked so much bad junk to that man, only to have to swallow and eat all those words.
And it all come out truthfully.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a champion. I'm going to punch you in your chin. I'm going to knock you out and be number one at Sports Center. That was amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. And I looked the next day. Sure as well get out. Number one at Sports Center.
Well,
so wait, did you beat that guy?
Yeah, dude.
Nice.
So once we started fighting, so I used to do this thing when I would go to fight, and what I would do is I would try to block out all the noise, and I would try to block out like the crowd, the referee, the announcer, and everything, and I would like say to myself, I would constantly say to myself, do what you train for, do what you train for, do what you train for, stick to your game plan, stick to your game plan, and I would say these things repeatedly over my head. People probably thought I was like weirded out or something, but I wasn't. I was saying these things to my head a lot, right? Because it's easy to start to engage and like all your game plan goes out the window, and then now you're just firing and you're engaging, and then that's how bad stuff happens.
Yeah.
So I want to say that when I fought that man, I was probably more hyper alert than I was fighting a lot of other people, because that was now there's weight classes and there's all kinds of rules. So you're talking about in the mid to late 90s when a lot of that stuff was barred and a lot of that was like underground. So there wasn't a whole lot of rules. That man was probably 100 pounds heavier.
Oh my gosh!
At the time, I would say that at that time I probably weighed maybe 180, and that man probably weighed 260, so maybe an 80-pound difference. So that was that was a big man, and so there was a healthy fear that I had of don't let him grab a hold of me.
Yeah.
But I realized very quickly when I hit him with a couple leg kicks, just you tested and stuff. I realized very quickly he has no technical fighting skills. Whereas me at the time, I had boxed for several years in a gym under my grandfather, who was a professional fighter and a world champion.
Yeah.
I had, studied Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai and karate and different skills. And I'm not saying I was the best fighter in the world, but I was very skilled enough to understand that quickly he doesn't have those skills. He does have one very tough skill set that you don't want to play around with, and that man is tough, and if he gets his hands on you, you're in big trouble.
Done.
I understood very quickly he doesn't understand how to check leg kicks. He had no idea in this world how to check a single leg kick.
That's bad.
So, the fight lasted 2 rounds, and I'll give this man credit then, and I give him credit to this day, 30 years later, damn near, that I probably kicked him in those 2 rounds probably 40 to 45 times. In his leg.
The same spot.
And pretty much in the same spot, in his leg, and he took it before he finally went down. Most human beings, if you let me kick you in the leg full force like that,
one time probably.
Most people won. Tough people that are trained for it, maybe 5. This man took about 40 to 45 of them. So that if that doesn't explain to you how tough this man was, and I
got Tony Ferguson shins.
Well, I ended up not even getting him with a leg kick. I ended up getting him with a head kick because I set him up in the second round. You could see the swelling and the welt on his leg from where I kept catching. I kept catching the outside of the calf and the outside of the quad, and you could see the swelling on his leg. And it got to the point that after a while, he was in so much pain trying to stand up, and he also was an orthodox fighter that couldn't change his fighting style, so he didn't know how to change between southpaw and orthodox.
Oh, that's much easier for you.
So obviously his legs were set in the positions they were set in the whole fight. After it became sore to the point he was having a hard time standing, I shot a couple fakes just to see what he would do, and he reacted each time.
Hands down.
Well, he jumped. He moved his leg back because just by me throwing like I was going to fake a kick. So, me being in the moment saying to myself, all right, set him up. Mm-hmm. So I caught him with a couple more. Then I threw a couple more fakes, and I watched him flinch each time. So then I said, all right, do it back to back. Hit him with a leg kick. He stepped back. I threw like I was going to throw a fake. And when I did, he leaned forward, but he moved because he was trying to move his leg out of the way.
Yeah, get it out.
And as soon as he did, I caught him, and my kick landed halfway across the side of his face and halfway across his neck, and it dropped him and ended the fight. If that man knew how to check leg kicks, If
Probably
he just
lost.
simply knew how to check leg kicks, that fight, it would not have ended that way. It probably wouldn't have been good for me. But he didn't even know how to check leg kicks. And because he didn't know how to check leg kicks, that ended up happening. And all that stuff he was saying to me before, and he was in my face and he was yelling at me, and, spit was coming in my face, and he was telling me he was going to kill me and all that stuff.
What was it like after?
Well, at first, they had some people come in the ring. They had a paramedic that was by there because it was a knockout.
He was unconscious.
He wasn't necessarily unconscious, but he
he
was laying on his back and didn't move for a moment. Ooh. And so when he went to get up, the referee stopped. The paramedic came in. Someone else that was there in charge of maybe the fights or something. I'm not sure who all those people were.
Yeah.
But they were in there with him and stuff. A lot of times, like now, you see the guys go over and talk and everything afterwards and stuff. I remember, afterwards seeing him over in the corner and stuff, and I didn't even want to go over there and talk to him. I didn't know about that situation, but I remember, we made eye contact, and I was looking at him, and I nodded my head at him, and he, nodded his head back at me. So there was no handshake, there was no, hug or nothing like that. That's as close as I got to him after the fight. He might have hated me. He might have wanted to kill me after. I don't know. I really, to be honest with you, that was
18.
Man, there was 2 times in my life because I got beat really bad as a kid and as a young man by grown adults. Yeah. By the time I got to a certain age, I really wasn't scared of much because there was nothing that they could do to me that hadn't already been done to me. There was only 2 times I can ever remember fighting and being like, oh shit, and that was one of the 2.
Really?
So and it's crazy because just as something as simple as being able to check a leg kick could have saved that man. He just didn't even know how to check a leg kick.
So essentially, the moral of the story is find the weakness, exploit the weakness, attack the weakness. Like Justin Gaethje, I love watching because he's one of the best kickers out there in my opinion. He throws legs better than anybody. He exploits your weaknesses so bad.
Yeah.
He will destroy your legs.
He kind of caught Dustin with a similar head kick to which I caught that gentleman that night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the only difference is Justin faked a punch.
Correct.
Which caused Poirier to lean in and catch the head kick. I faked a leg kick, which caused him to sling his leg backwards and at the same time put his head out there. And I just countered, So it was the same thing. He faked a punch and came with a head kick. I faked the leg kick and came with a head kick. So, yeah.
So when in doubt, head kick it out?
There you go.
All jokes aside, I will say I was a soccer goalie, as a soccer player, you could kick pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one thing that helped in one street fight in my life that not a single parent, and I hope my parents don't know about this, but that saved my butt because that was the only thing that I could reach because I was a very skinny, tiny, scrawny son of a gun. I was in high school. In senior year, no joke, 6 foot, 145, maybe. I'm being nice to myself. I was 140. Let's be real. I couldn't probably beat up much, but I knew my legs, and I knew a little bit how to create distance. I didn't like bullies. I actually had the cops called on me in 5th grade. I had to sit down with the cops, and they told me that if you fight one more kid in school, you'll go to juvie. And I simply told them, I said, can you go check the records here? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, we have cameras in this school. Check the cameras. You'll see why I did what I did. Check for every instance. And they were like, you're actually protecting kids. And I said, yeah, I'm getting in a lot of trouble for it. But at the end of the day, I'm glad I did that. In high school, I literally got walked in. That was one of my biggest scares. First day, I'm getting thrown in the locker rooms, pushed around, and I'm like, it was, I guess, because of my family name, whatever. And I went up to the biggest kid at the end of the day. And I said, dude, I don't know you. You don't know me. You apparently know my last name, and I don't know why I'm being punked and messed up. I said, we're going outside. I don't care if you beat the living crap out of me, but I'm going to at least try. And he looked at me and goes, I like you. I'll call everyone off. Cool. Because I didn't want to do that. I was going to I'd be in the hospital probably. He was huge. He was like 275, offensive lineman for high school. Yeah. So Rockmore, thank you, bro. I appreciate you for that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I guess now it's the sugar show.
It's the sugar show.
I
love it though.
We'll see how far the sugar show goes.
I think it will go far. I think the one thing, people do go back on that Peter Yan fight. Mm-hmm. That is, I think, one where he may or may not have got a little bit of a better decision. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, here's the big thing I'm realizing with judges. They are getting away from more of the grapple time period.
Yeah.
They are. They're now looking more, which in my opinion is correct, more looking at the more significant strikes.
Because if you watch that fight, he had the more significant strike, shot him out.
By a landslide.
Yeah.
It's just that he was taken down. Well, here's the thing.
But you're right. I'm glad the judges are doing that too. I'm glad the judges are getting away from giving people fights for holding people and not making any progress.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, if you're constantly, when you take someone down, you're going for an armbar, you're going for a triangle choke, you're going for a leg. Cool, that's great. But if you're not ever getting anything, did you really dominate the fight? No. You just simply might have taken the guy down, but he got it back up every single time.
All right, I got a real serious question for you now.
Oh, so now we gotta go deep again? Come on, dude. Come on. All
Do
right.
you think that transgender women should be able to compete against biological women in sports?
It's a good question. That's a big question that's absolutely going on in current time period. You have the swimmer. You also have the can't remember her name off the top of my head. I apologize.
Riley Gaines.
Riley Gaines, yes. So Riley Gaines is sticking to one very important thing, and what it only comes down to, there's no me bashing the LGBTQ community on this one. There's none of it, okay? There's none of me bashing a man wanting to be a woman or a woman wanting to be a man. It is all basically coming down to biologics. It's coming down to your biology of your body.
Will you
your
have an X chromosome or a Y chromosome?
No, it actually really comes down to testicles. And what's inside the testicles and what they do. What does testicles produce? Testosterone. What does testosterone help? Muscle growth. Helps with your heart to work harder. It helps your muscles grow faster, stronger, bigger. So as a male, no matter what, you are going to automatically have more of a muscle growth, more of an advantage in that part than a female would. It's 100%, it's not me. Open up a freaking book, study some freaking health, study the sex changes, study sex hormones, and realize there is a massive difference in testosterone. And what is the big thing women have? Estrogen. Why is it we consume soybeans and things like that, we start growing boobies, man boobies, because of soy, because soy is high in estrogen. Then you start wondering, oh, I'm losing muscle mass and things like that. Women actually have a much harder, way harder time to develop further in their, respective fields, football, basketball, and they're playing football, basketball, soccer, jiu-jitsu, I don't even care, any sports. You let a male into that, even if he's had the suppressive hormones for that current time period where he has to suppress the testosterone, because that's what it was for a little bit, he automatically has an advantage for the past umpteen years prior to that. That's BS, that's not fair to the woman, and if you're a woman and you care about your sport, you don't want this. You don't. I grew up in a smaller school where if there wasn't a female program, a male could play on that program. My buddy did that, a 280-pound, 5'7" Italian boy, playing women's field hockey and women's lacrosse, destroying people. Shouldn't happen. Shouldn't happen. He wasn't transgender, it's just because of the bylaws in high school at the time. But if you are going to sit down and think it's okay that a male who's been developing for 13 years, yes, understanding that the testosterone has not really gone through until about 8, 9 when the balls start, dropping, you are automatically at a much more bigger advantage, and that is 100% not fair for the females. It's not. It's not. Plain and simple. It all comes down to literal testosterone and estrogen dominance and testosterone dominance. It's simple anatomy.
I'm going to leave it pretty simple with my answer. They call it common sense, but it is not common for everyone.
It's not. No.
If it was common for everyone, this wouldn't even be a discussion. The answer is absolutely not.
No.
If you are biologically a man, you should not be able to compete against a biological woman. And maybe the answer is that we create a third sport, a third Olympics, for transgender athletes. But to treat women the way we have been treating women and allowing this to happen is so disrespectful to the women in this country.
Yep.
I don't appreciate it, and most women I know don't appreciate it. And when I hear this administration, because Congress came out with a vote and they voted to ban transgender men, women from competing against biological women, and this administration vetoed that. And I read their entire statement that they released the day after they did it, and they said, we won't discriminate against anyone, and we hear everybody, and we won't let anybody be let down or left behind. But yet, you're contradicting yourself, because the women are screaming from the rooftops that this isn't fair and what you're doing to them, and please help them, and please don't allow this. So basically, you're saying that you're not discriminating against anyone, but you are clearly discriminating against women.
Yeah.
And you're clearly ignoring their pleas and their cries, and them telling you that this isn't okay and that this isn't right. So shame on anyone that thinks that that's okay and that allows it and participates in it. I stand by my words. I will never apologize by So like I said, I don't believe that it should be allowed, and hopefully sometime in the near future there'll be a correction on some of this silly stuff that's been going on, and we'll put an end to this once and for all, and this will no longer be a discussion.
Here's my thing. If you want to play in the field of sport, you have to respect the rules of that sport. I have no problem with the LGBTQ community, and if we're binary or however you want to think that day, or they call it gender fluidity, that's fine. At the end of the day, though, if you had testicles, you absolutely had an advantage of testosterone. You absolutely had an advantage of muscle growth. You absolutely have a major advantage over females when it comes to sports. Now, does that mean that women can beat men in sports? Yeah, it can happen. Absolutely, it can happen. Can men beat women in sports? Majority of the time, more yes. That swimmer went from like 585th place of men in college to #1 in female. If you were maybe in like the top 10 in the men's and you switched and you got first place, okay, well that's only 9 points away. But what is that? 529 points difference? Places difference? I got a big problem with that, my friend. I got a big problem. And like I said before, I'm going to stick with it, because I do believe when it comes down to just biological understanding of the body, you're respecting what the body is. Now, if you want to believe you're something different, that's your choice. That's your choice. That's your belief system. That's fine. But, again, if you're a male, male sports. You're born a male, male sports. You're born a female, female sports. Plain and simple.
I agree 100%. Quick hit questions.
Ooh.
1, would you allow your kid, let's say under the age of 16, to have TikTok?
No. No.
Me neither. Our kids are not allowed to have TikTok either.
I wouldn't want my kid to be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or really any social media. And you know me, I'm a nerd. I have this written down because I want to make sure I get the proper information, if that's cool with you. I like talking about the brain. We talk about brain development, right?
Okay.
There's certain portions of the brain that people don't understand, or certain portions of the spinal cord people don't understand. Let's talk about those two important things. That's the white matter and the gray matter. The white matter is what's covered in what's called the myelin sheath. That helps these things fire faster, go faster, help these messages go all over the place, right? So the thing is, though, we also have gray matter. What is gray matter? It's really unmyelinated neurons. They're also parts of the other central nervous system, which are constantly working, and they work in connection. Now, it is present in your brain, the brainstem, and your cerebellum down the center, your spinal cord, all that good stuff. So the problem is, ready for it? Cortical gray matter development peaks at around 12 years of age in the frontal and parietal cortices, parts of your brain, certain portions of it, and at 14 to 16 in the temporal lobes, peaking at about roughly the same age in both sexes according to that reliable data. So let's think about that for 1 second. What does that mean? That brain's not even remotely fully developed.
Nope.
Is it impressionable?
Yep.
More than anyone. More than anyone. Your kids absolutely, like, I'm so proud of my fiance's sister. They're barely on their phone, so the kids never want to be on the phone or grab the iPad or can we do, no, because they don't see it from the parents. So that is a big one that's very important. There is a lot of stuff like, dude, I don't know about you, but I mean, I learned a lot of goofy stuff on the school bus, right? When you're older. That's really where you kind of got to learn a little bit about sex and some stuff you probably shouldn't know, you know, maybe drugs, things like that. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm glad I learned that a little bit later in life than seeing that at maybe like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years of age. I'm sorry, but going on TikTok, it's basically, I call it porn, because these kids are basically twerking all over the place. They're half nude, they're naked basically, and they're just doing this disgusting crap. There's some good stuff to TikTok, okay? There might be some helpful videos, but a lot of this stuff is basically all sexualized, or you have very easy access to predators. I do not like that, and I will not be okay with that. So honestly, when kids grow up, they won't be on that stuff, and they will be outside. If they want to learn, we'll have a discussion and we'll sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, it's a no-go in our home, and I really like one of our neighbors. The mother and father seem like good people, but one of the kids that our kids play with, I found out that they're even younger than our kids. They have a cell phone and they have TikTok on it, and I found out they were playing on TikTok while my kids was there and have my kids. So I recently told my kids, all right, well, you're not allowed to hang around down there unsupervised like that, because we don't allow our kids to have access to TikTok and that type of stuff because of some of the things you just said and because of what they see and stuff. It's mind blowing that a 6-year-old would have access to a cell phone
6-year-old?
and TikTok. And
whoa!
But we are completely against that stuff, and we don't allow that stuff. It's not allowed in this house. I don't have it. My wife doesn't have it. We don't allow it. Period. And then the second part of the question was, what do you think is an appropriate age to let your kid have a cell phone?
Yeah, when it comes down again back to brain development, 16.
16.
16, and that's look, like 16. That's your start of freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
For me, that is also kind of when you're. I will say, okay, I grew up in Pennsylvania. This might be a little different because we're down here in the South, and you are legally allowed to drive at 15. Well, we weren't. You could get your permit at 15, and it would take about 6 months or so of it. So average time period, most people get their license at 16. That is kind of an important time to have a cell phone. You are in a car. It is important, safety-wise. Better be able to call your parents, or in case of emergency, God forbid, knock on wood, you have to be able to take care of, be able to call 911. I understand that. There are cell phones out though that literally can be only programmed to like 5 or 10 people, and only 5 or 10 people can even call into that phone.
Yeah.
Dude, if you need access to your kid, buy them that little thing, get it connected to Verizon. They still sell them, and they're great.
Yeah.
They're great.
We have a rule in this house that they can have cell phones once they turn 16. Until they turn 16, it's non-negotiable. What we do have is the watches, and on those watches, they have a GPS tracker location in them, so we can track where they're at.
Wow.
And they have 5 numbers they can call, like, so you can call like your mom, your dad, your grandparents, the police, whatever stuff.
Emergency services.
So you have 5 numbers and then you can do like a voice text, like, Mom, we're on the bus on the way home. And so because there's no text part.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that'll come through on our end as a text. So that's the only thing that those watches can do. There's no access to internet. There's no social, nothing, none of that other stuff. It's just those 5 contacts and a GPS tracker.
I actually never knew that. Who makes that?
I'll show you everything before you eat today, so you can kind of check it out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like we're on the same. So why 16 for you?
Well, 16 to me is a lot of the things that you just said. One, you're getting closer to the end of high school. 2, you are starting to develop more and grow and not necessarily be as impressionable as a kid as if, say, you were 6 or 12. Yeah. And then also you're going to start driving, so if something happens, you're probably going to have a job or a part-time job. So like just the communication and stuff at that point, I'm still not going to be the parent that goes out and gets you the brand new iPhone or the brand new Galaxy that comes out. You can get a phone, right?
We're gonna get the one that's affordable.
We're going to get, just a phone.
I'm not against the wall and brick.
I'm not running out and keeping up with the Toms and Jones and Johnnies and stuff. I don't care about that.
You want the iPhone 25 or whatever?
No, I'm good on all that.
Give me the iPhone 5.
I don't care about all that stuff, and I don't get into all that silly stuff. I do some mentoring, obviously you know this, with different kids, and 2 of the people I've been mentoring for the last year, one is 16 and one is 18, and I was having a talk with them recently, and they were saying some stuff to me about electronics, and they were saying that they wish their parents had not given them electronics at such an early age because it messed them up really bad, and when they have kids, they won't allow their kids to have electronics until they're between 16 to 18, and I said, well, what do you guys mean by this? And they were like, we had access to learn too much and to see too much at too early of an age, and we wish that we hadn't had that. And so they looked and they showed me on their phone the amount of time that they spend per day, and they both average over 5 hours a day.
Oh my gosh!
Fooling around their phone, and
that
so
doesn't do anything.
I said, do you mind I know that this is private between us, but do you mind if my wife comes in here and you tell my wife these things? So they're like, yeah. So they told us,
And how old are they?
16 and 18.
So a 16 and 18 year old is telling, like, this is the horse's mouth. This isn't just the the parents of the older people getting annoyed or being the old fuddy-duddy,
Yeah,
No, this is coming from the kid.
yeah,
So a 16-year-old and 18-year-old is telling you, this is dangerous.
yeah,
This is too much access.
yeah,
And I agree with that because, back in the day, AOL was kind of going around, the instant messenger. Let's go rural back, right? Dude, you think my parents allowed me to have that? No. What was their big reason why? You might not know who you're talking to. It could be a predator. And when I heard that, I was like, what's a predator? I never even knew. Why? Because I wasn't exposed to it. But that was a very valuable thing where my parents, I told them, I said, well, maybe we should probably talk about that so I know. What do you mean?
yeah.
And I don't want to change this topic if you don't want to change this topic. I think a big thing that we talk about that's kind of not necessarily per se the fun thing to talk about is the trafficking that goes on. I don't know about you, but I feel like it would be very easy to go on the TikTok or the Instagram or the Facebook of a young kid and say stupid crap. I see it all the time. I follow a dude on Instagram who completely destroys predators, and he'll get them. And I'm like, good, because those are the people that shouldn't even really be alive. I hate saying it like that, it's not right, but those people are disturbing. I do think having that ability to have the cell phone, have the social media, have the internet access at an early age without having the full developmental process of going, I think this is wrong. I think this is a scary person. I think this is someone who might hurt me. I don't know if I would think that at 12. You're going to give him some ice?
Yeah, obviously, a lot of that plays in, and I don't think people take that stuff into consideration, but bravo to your parents for thinking about that in the AOL days.
Yeah.
But, the predator stuff these days as well, but also because of all the other stuff, like on TikTok, they have like National Spit in Your Teacher Face Day.
What?
Yeah, they have like National Rape Day, they have National Smack a Stranger Day, they have National Quit Your Job Day. So like just the influence and the stuff that your kids have access to, and being in a time in their life when they're very, very impressionable, you have to be careful of what you allow into their lives, in their mind, into their hearts, because they're developing patterns that will affect them for the rest of their life during those early ages. And I just don't see why a kid needs to have a phone and access to the World Wide Web. It's just lazy and bad parenting at the end of the day.
It comes down to that, free babysitter kind of thing. But also at the same time, now that free babysitter is also babysitting your kids and impressioning your kids.
Yeah.
There is some stuff with certain, movies you see that might be PG related or PG-13, and you watch it and you're like, there's a lot of sexual innuendos here. This is a little disturbing. What are we talking about here? I'm a little shocked. I didn't know some of the stuff you just told me about the TikTok trends. I've seen some of them. National Spit in Your Teacher's Face Day?
Yeah.
What the Dude, I saw a video of a kid kicking a teacher in the head. I'm sorry, but in my high school, I did grow up basically with farm boys. If someone did that, that kid would have got the crap beat out of him by the students. There was one kid who was a complete jerk. We had a substitute teacher, and he was just giving her crap the whole time and just being a total turd. Doesn't need to be a turd, just being a turd. And he was like, I need to go use the restroom. And she's like, no, you've literally already used it once. Well, he was actually having some stomach issues. He's like, I will literally take a crap in this, trash can. And then he kind of got up in her face, and 4 of us grabbed the kid, and we're like, you do that, you ain't going to be walking out of here. And I think that was a big change, because we didn't really have we didn't have Facebook really back then. It was kind of just more texting. You just write, what was the cool thing you were doing during the day? What's on your mind? That stupid stuff. There was not even pictures back then, or videos back. Well, there's some pictures. But I think if kids see some of this stuff more, and it's more almost like, per se, kind of normal, well then how are they supposed to know what's good and bad? That scares me more.
Very true. Before we wrap this episode up, I want to ask you one last thing. You know, this has been, we went,
everywhere.
but we've dug in some good topics. This is the Be the Best You podcast.
Yeah.
So, if you could give everyone listening one piece of advice or one piece of motivation to take home with them, what would it be?
So, to be the best you, I really think one thing is to trust your gut. Believe yourself.
Okay.
Why I mean that is because and this does come from more of a Christianity standpoint, is discernment. If you feel something's not right, it's not probably right. Okay? If you feel you're in a situation, something don't feel right, get the hell out of Dodge. I think that was one of the biggest things I was taught, and it's been so powerful for me, because every time I felt like my stomach isn't right, correct, it is correct. There's something wrong going on. I'll give you a prime example. When I was in New York with the band, I was in drumline, so we got to go on a trip to New York, and we're in Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. Well, my dumb butt was waiting behind Tupac, wondered why he wasn't moving. Yeah, so that's a little funny one. But I started noticing in my stomach, something didn't feel right. Because I started noticing there's less and less people in this building. There's no one new coming in behind me. So I called my mom. I said, Mom, I'm going to grab everybody. We need to meet at the front right now. Do you trust me? She goes, I do. I'll meet you at the front. So we met at the front, and I'm like, it is a ghost town. You open the door, and I'm not making this up. There's not a single person on the street. There's cops screaming in your face telling you, run now, get the hell out of here. And I'm like, what? I'm running. Okay, I'm not guessing. I'm running. The Times Square was one street across. That was where that guy drove that truck and put all his bomb in it. And the reason why his bomb didn't go off was because there were so many people on their cell phones that the signal couldn't even actually go through to the bomb when he was a mile away to set it off. That blast radius was supposed to be about 3 blocks apart. I would be dead if it did go off. But I had that gut feeling going, something's wrong, something's wrong. Stick with it, trust it, believe yourself, because if you don't, you might be in a bad situation.
So if you're watching and listening, trust your guts and your instincts. There's a reason you have them.
Yep.
Man, thanks again for coming on and doing this awesome interview.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love talking to you. We always have a good time.
We do, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys that have taken the time to watch or listen today. This has been another episode of the Be the Best You podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, try until you fly.